So let's move on to the Arsenal squad and specifically the English core. We've got a number of English players, and Wenger did say that he's going to give us a great England team. It looks at the moment as if Arsenal and Liverpool are both carrying the England team or providing the resource for the England team. I want to start with you, Julian. Wenger in the past said he doesn't look at passports. In the past, he's fielded almost all foreign players in teams. What's changed between then and now?
Those foreign players left. That's pretty much it. In short, that's essentially the summary of it.
So strategic.
Fabregas, Clichy, Nasri, Van Persie, those are players who are meant to have real ties to the club, real loyalty. Wenger made most of them as players, and they still left. They went elsewhere, and the decision was taken that potentially the English core, which is I think 5 of them, isn't it? Plus Chesney and Ramsey as well. So basically 7 of them. They have, Arsenal would like to think, more loyalty. The club means more to them than it would do to the players who left for direct rivals, especially. I think it's a very sensible idea. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think it reconnects the fans to the players to an extent. It's good news for England as well, and Welbeck will obviously feed into this. I think it's a very logical policy, and I think it's done on sound reasoning, with the idea that the loyalty Arsenal are showing these players, someone like, for example, Ramsey, who has had his bad time, Wenger has stuck by him, the idea that this is going to be repaid, and I think that makes perfect sense, and I think it probably will be repaid as well.
I think there's a cultural issue as much as the loyalty issue, which is English players don't go abroad to play football. I think much to their own detriment and the detriment of the English team, because I think that if English players went overseas, they'd learn from playing in a different style, they'd learn from being in a different language, the whole experience of broadening the mind and playing. But actually English players don't move overseas, they feel safe at home, the language issue and so on. Therefore, if you have a talented English player in your squad, they're less likely to leave, whereas by definition, if you brought in a good young foreign player, they've already been a mercenary once, haven't they? They've been a mercenary in getting out of the club where they initially were, it's more likely they'll do it to you again to move on. So there are some sound reasons for it, but I think the main reason that we've ended up with more of an English core is actually just the practicalities, like you say, the very good foreign players that we've had have moved on, we've ended up with the next tier. Of course, you could look at, again, you can look at this 2 ways. England aren't a very good international team at the moment, so to have the core of the England team, you could say, is a bit of a worry. But clearly there's certain things about spirit and having several players together and a sense of continuity that they get. It's going to be quite exciting to watch.
I think there's a lot in what you say about players going abroad, and I think Arsenal fans don't like to mention him, but Ashley Cole is being watched by quite a few English players in terms of and I think all credit to him. He's gone to Roma, completely new life. He's learning the language. He's immersing himself in the culture. And I think a lot of English players are sort of watching and wondering how that goes. Michael Richards has gone now to Fiorentina, and that could be the start. So it might be changing, and not enough English players have moved.
Chukwuemeka's in Belgium now, if I'm right, isn't he? So there's another young British lad.
Yeah, but can I just pick up something? Sorry, that Tim just said about the core's not, England's not great and everything, but our 6 players are great. They are.
Also, there was a lot of talk, wasn't there, before that the club were looking to, harmonise that squad. So we know before that there's been divisions where Omri wasn't changed to Nasri, where Giles and Torre were arguing. Yeah. We knew that they always talked to how trying to, and that's maybe why Balotelli wasn't considered, because he might be a kind of a cantankerous person. And so I think if you have that harmony in that group, if you have that that social group, that togetherness, and you bring that kind of loyalty out of the players, it might be something that the club are looking at. I remember before Fabregas, Pleb and Rosicky, they were seen as a bit too cliquey, weren't they? And how do you break that up? How do you bring that loyalty to the squad?
You can tell that.
Come back to the point you should make to me. Would you rather have the Germany midfield or the England midfield? Would you rather have had the Spanish midfield or the England midfield? We're not a bit loyal here. Would you rather have Ozil or Jack Wilshere? Of course, we've got both of them, but you see the point here.
Yeah, I understand, but I'm a little bit more like Wenger. I don't look at passports. It didn't bother me once when we didn't field an English player, because I'm not. And I'll say this, I'm not a particularly England fan. I've always been an Arsenal fan first, and I've said that since the 80s, when England was, deemed to be. What would you rather win? See England win the World Cup or Arsenal win the Champions League? I used to look at people like they're mad. Why would you even ask me that? So for me, I'm not fussed, but when you look at our 6 core players that are playing for England, every single one is highly rated. So whether England are doing well or not, it's not my concern. Great that they all play, and it's exactly what Andrew said. That's why Balotelli wasn't brought in. We know that. It was going to upset the harmony, and that's why I said about Falcao and the wages as well. I think Wenger's trying to. I don't think he's looking at passports. I think if Danny Welbeck would have been Welsh or Scottish, he'd have brought him in. So that argument's a bit...
There's an argument to say sometimes as well that we look at the players coming from abroad as more fashionable. If it was Danny Welbeckio, you know, more fans might have got excited. You know, I think the one good thing about a lot of these English players is they've moved on. Technically, they're a lot better than like a lot of the English players from before. And you know, if you look at someone, say even at Liverpool, Sterling. I mean, if Sterling was a player from abroad,
oh, millions.
How much money would he be worth?
Millions.
How many clubs in this country?
He's already is.
He's already worth a lot of money, but I'm saying he probably would be put on an even higher pedestal because, like, all of our fans, for instance, eulogising about Draxler, a lot of them haven't even really seen him play week in, week out. So, but you know, whereas if you compared, say, at this current moment in time, Draxler to a player like Ramsey, I'd have Ramsey all day long. So, you know, these guys, these English players that we've got, they've really moved on. I just hope that the England thing doesn't affect them because playing for England, there's such a pressure on it. And me personally as well, I don't rate the manager at the moment for England. So,
well, historically, Wenger was suspicious of English players, almost more not so much on the pitch, but how they lived off the pitch. Yeah. You know, the drinking lifestyle, the partying lifestyle, certain parts of the behaviour. But I think that's changing throughout. You know, that's partly what Arsene Wenger's changed in English football over the last 15 years, and they don't drink and live a lifestyle like they used to, and the overseas players have brought that cultural change in. There's perhaps one in the Arsenal squad who's still got a little bit of an issue to address with that, but that's definitely been a factor in his thinking, that the overseas players bring a bit more maturity, a bit more consideration of their career and how they live their lifestyle. But everything I hear from around the England camp, around the players we have, a player which is signed, you almost can't see the difference now, that you can't be a top level professional without living your lifestyle in the way that...
Sorry Tim, can I just say though, because we've adopted the European attitude, that's why it's different now to what it was in the 80s. But going back to Sterling, I think he was signed for 600,000. Could you imagine if we'd have done that, signed a player for 600,000, an unknown? There would have been uproar at the club. Yes, but it's not gone the way Sterling's gone though, has he? No. I'm talking about progress. We would have been up in arms if we'd have signed a player for £500,000.
I think Sterling was a fair bit more than that.
I thought it was 600.
How much did Sonego cost?
Oh, okay.
How much did Sonego cost?
Well, yeah, but I wasn't...
Okay,
we're
focusing on the midfield.
Let's not go there.
If we focus on the midfield, you know, it seems as though this is going to be Jack Wilshere's make or break season. Ramsey, he played well in the Champions League the other night. He got dropped. Ramsey came back. For me, I think they should have found a way of accommodating Jack Wilshere in the team. Where do you see the midfield being made up, especially now that Arteta is now the club captain? Is that right?
Yep.
Do you see Arteta getting many games? Do you think it was a good choice making him club captain?
Well, Arteta's an automatic. It will start when he's fit. I mean, you don't make him captain and then drop him all over for Marlon. Well, that did happen. That happened a fair time after he was appointed captain. I think Mertesacker had a very good case to be captain. I think he is definitely. Mertesacker is a leader. Mertesacker collects the club fines and things like that. Wenger was asked about that, and he said, "Well, first of all, he's German, and you want Germans to collect fines around you, and also you don't argue with him." But,
exactly.
I think that Mertesacker would have been a good choice. He went for Arteta. It means Arteta starts.
Get the Arsenal Fan TV app, available on Apple and Android now.